All right. So welcome everyone to this month Business Lab. We have Kathleen Windsor Games with us today, who is a sales trainer and the VP of Sales at Achievement Dynamics. She is or has a background in executive coaching, leadership coaching, background as a recruiter in the financial services industry, and more than her curriculum and all her achievements in her life, the way that I'd like to introduce Kathleen is maybe with a little bit of context. I think as business owners and individuals, we all understand that we ultimately work towards building better businesses. And there's like different lenses through which we can look at or access points to build better businesses. And you have heard maybe there are people, there is your product or services, there's processes, and ultimately in all of these areas we're trying to make improvements. We're trying to improve ourselves so we can help our team. We're trying to improve our services or our product, and we're trying to improve our processes. And through that, ultimately we build better businesses. With the area that Kathleen is focusing on is sales, which is a critical process. As we all know, without sales, the business doesn't really exist. And what I've seen over the years, many business owners never truly defined their sales process. They started selling and never truly defined it, never truly articulated. And by not doing that, they aren't really able to intentionally improve their sales process and everything that comes along with it, their conversion rate, their client retention, the length it takes to close the sale, the profit margin within the sales. And what Kathleen does through the work that she's doing is she helps business owners identify, articulate their process, and then from that place truly improve it. And I cannot think of a business that doesn't need their service and that she doesn't work with everyone, but ultimately she works with the business owners and with the sales team to establish that, and really through that help them build better, more profitable, easier to run companies. And that's why I'm super excited, Kathleen, that you're speaking to us today, because I think it's an incredibly valuable presentation. We all have different sales approaches, whether we sell ice cream at Colorado Mills Mall, or we sell websites to business owners, or we're selling, I don't know, medical equipment to hospitals. There always is a process involved, and there's always work to be done to improve that. And so I'm excited for this presentation today, Kathleen. Thank you.
Great. Wow. That was a really great introduction. Appreciate that so much. And so if I can ask Simon, if you will keep an eye on the chat for me. I am not a multitasker, so learned my lesson on that a long time ago, that I try to focus on doing one thing fully present. And so if I can get you to just keep an eye on the chat, because sometimes I'm going to be asking folks to throw comments into the chat. This is your time. And what I want to make sure that we accomplish here today is, first of all, nothing to sell here today. I am going to ask a couple of questions and some feedback at the end. And so, Simon, we're going to want to save maybe about 10 minutes at the end for two things. One is to take a really quick poll and answer 2 to 3 feedback questions. And then the other thing I'd like us to do at the end is save a little time for everybody to share at least one takeaway that you got from today that you can take action on. So the good way to make this a good spend of your time. And with that, I want to make it fun, interactive, and practical. And I do believe we can do all 3 things. It's even better than walking and chewing gum at the same time. So with that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about who Sandler is as an organization, and a really tiny bit on me, just to give you some context. So Sandler is an international company. Our office is owned here and operated here locally, but as an organization, we train over 30,000 people every year. And one of the most important data points that you can see here is that 96% of our clients would recommend us. And one really kind of fun fact I'll share with you today is that our sales training and sales leadership programs are now an official part of getting a Harvard MBA. It's a required part of the curriculum. And so what you can tell somebody tomorrow is an interesting kind of data point on your day-to-day is you can tell them that you've got a partial Harvard MBA today. So just already a takeaway, and we haven't even gotten into it yet. What do we do? As an organization, we do assessments that help sales leaders and business owners make smarter hires to get the right type of salespeople with great sales DNA, beliefs, behavior, emotional intelligence, all those kinds of things. So we help with the selection process and the development process as well. The second thing we do is sales training. It's individuals, it's solopreneurs, it's people who have small businesses, and it's teams. And then we do sales leadership training, and that starts with the frontline sales supervisor or manager all the way up to the CEO who has the sales part of the organization under his or her umbrella. So interesting points, I think. This company was founded by a guy by the name of David Sandler in 1968, and he had so many insights into human psychology back then, really ahead of his time. And only today, as we're better understanding the human brain and human psychology, are a lot of these things being verified more scientifically and integrated more and more. The organization within Sandler that I work for is Achievement Dynamics, founded by Gary Harvey in 1996. And our company was purchased a couple of years ago by Brian and Julie McDevitt, who have been wonderful people to work with. And the reason I tell you that background is I started my Sandler sales training by joining a lifetime sales mastery program that was offered in 2010, and was I guess you call it a frequent flyer, used the training and the coaching quite a bit. And when Julie and Brian bought this business in 2018, I started building a relationship with them and somehow found myself joining the firm full-time in 2019, and I'm really glad I did. Now, a few of you know me from my prior work. I founded an executive coaching firm back in 2003, ran that for 16 years, helping business owners, entrepreneurs, executives in transition who often became business owners, started up businesses and needed to know how to delegate, how to lead, how to hire, and how to sell. And based on that and my 7 years of experience as an executive recruiter in financial services, I think all those things brought me to this point and made it a real natural fit for me to be doing what I'm doing now. So just a little bit of quick background there. And now here's the part that gets you involved, and we're going to ask you a question. And here it is. My company or I could sell more if. Your job is going to be to fill in the blanks with something that gets in your way that is a challenge or an obstacle. You can jot your thoughts down. I'd love it if you would share a few thoughts. I have a few ideas I'm going to put up here that we hear a lot. And it's something that you can control, right? So we can't say, you know, if we're in an economic downturn, that I could sell more if it wasn't for the economic downturn. What we want are things that you might be able to control. And here's some ideas while you're thinking. Some people just don't feel like they have enough time to go out and do prospecting. They're very busy running the business and delivering the service, or they're busy writing contracts and delivering on those contracts. So they might not feel they have enough time, or they might not feel that they do it well. Simon alluded to something earlier, not having a good sales system, feeling like maybe we're winging it a little too much. Others have told us they feel like they're presenting a little bit too early in the process and find that they may trip over something that they presented that wasn't quite custom to the prospect or the buyer. There's the chase and hide. Lots of people tell us this. They feel like the prospect was fascinated and they're getting ghosted. They disappear. Maybe we've got a lot of suspects. Maybe we even have a lot of leads coming in and we don't know if they're qualified or not qualified. And then sometimes people have trouble with closing, and sometimes people just don't have a good qualified, disqualified set of steps. So what I'd like you to do is jot down one or two things that you find to be challenges right now. And I want to encourage people to either unmute yourself or to share in chat. And then if Simon can keep a hold of that or stay on top of it. So just one or two shares. Hopefully people are comfortable enough to talk about one or two challenges that you're meeting as that business owner or that salesperson. It looks like we're getting something in the chat right now. A couple of things, and so I'll have Simon share. What are we hearing so far?
Okay, so one person shared, I wish I could block out some of my day to follow up on sales opportunities.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The other, I have more inventory to sell. I guess this might, if I had more inventory to sell, I'm not sure if that's correct, but
Okay.
and then talking too much in general without cohesive plan of end goal. Another one is if our tax and accounting professionals had some sales acumen.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to keep reading, or do you want to answer, or just
if there's more? I'm just gathering right now. We're not going to stop. And this whole presentation is designed to wrap around what I'm hearing. So I get to sprinkle in some of these comments, and I'm going to jot down a couple. So yeah, it looks like we have another after sales acumen.
Yeah, having direct conversations with new people who need what I have to offer.
So that's prospects.
Hmm.
It sounds like to me. Yeah, prospects. Maybe not enough prospects in the pipeline is what I'm hearing. And then got another one there.
Focus more on requesting referrals from existing clients.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. Yay. Okay, I like that. So those are good. And another thing I just want you to write down, and you don't have to share this with us today, but it's a good exercise. We find it's very clarifying for people. And again, think about the things you have control over, not the things you don't have control over. So if you look at your last 12 months in business, what do you think the issues that you might have shared or that you're thinking about, what does that cost you in lost opportunities? So if you would just jot down a number, think about your average size of sale, even if you're just ballparking it. What might these issues have cost you over the last year? And again, it's only the things that you have control over. So if you solve some of these things, like better sales acumen for the team, following up on the sales opportunities, having direct conversations with new prospects, focusing on referrals from clients, all of those good answers. And Simon, it looks like we have a couple more things in the chat.
There was one other concern, which was add a service or person for more. Let me start again. Add a service or person for much of the in-person activities and allow me to control the rest of the communication.
Oh, so having a service person, so you would be freed up to do more selling.
Yeah.
Is that how you're hearing that, Simon?
That's how, yeah.
Okay. Yep. I think that's a really good point. As the business starts growing, that's a fairly common thing, that the owner, their time fills up and there's just only so many hours in the day. And it becomes a matter of building out the team and scaling that up and spending more time on selling. And then do we have something else?
Yeah, then we have some just numbers. And to your second question, I put in just a ballpark number of 60K, 2 opportunities. Another person is even just 1 lost opportunity equals 18,000 in annual revenue.
Okay.
And another comment was, if my internal team had the same sense of urgency as I do in getting quotes to me to put in front of prospects,
Okay.
I've lost 30,000 in the last 6 months.
Ooh. Okay. All right. Yeah, and sometimes it's other people on the team and we may not have control over that. So that might be kind of the team we're on, which I don't know if sales training is going to fix that or not, unless it starts at the top and works its way down. So it's really good to kind of take a little bit of inventory for yourself periodically to see what those lost opportunities might be costing you. And then next to that number that you wrote down for yourself, and again, you don't have to share this here, but think about what is your personal level of commitment on a scale of 1 to 10 of doing something to fix the issue. And 1 is pretty comfortable the way it is right now, and these issues may not be big enough to solve, and that's okay. And a 10 is, it's critical, I got to do something right now. So just write it down for yourself. And hopefully today you're going to hear a couple of immediate takeaways that will help with at least some of these issues. So I'll share with you some of the typical sales things that we hear that are challenges. And some of these will apply to you and some will not. So think of it through the lens of, if it doesn't apply to you, it's okay. I wouldn't jot down any notes about this, but there may be 1 or 2 things in here that really resonate with you, that you have questions about, and you may want to get addressed. So oftentimes people will tell us they're seen as a commodity, and it's very difficult to differentiate, and that pushes prices down. Sometimes it's getting to the decision makers. Sometimes we present, and maybe we present a little too early without getting all the decision makers in the room, or we find out there's a mysterious committee behind a curtain and we're never going to get in front of that committee. And that can be very frustrating. We often hear people say that they're really tired of giving away unpaid consulting. People are taking all our information, using it, and then we never hear from them. Others tell us that they struggle to expand relationships across an account if it's a bigger account, and you want to get really good, strong relationships built with multiple decision makers and or influencers. And I'm sure some of you know that in your business, there may be a key decision maker, but there could be a couple of other influencers who have veto power. Here's a big one we hear a lot, that I ended the meeting, it felt like it really went well, they were going to get back to us, but there were really no clear next steps. Others, hey, this deal's been stuck in the pipeline for months. And if it's clogging up our pipeline and we're looking at it often and it isn't moving, I feel like that is stealing our energy and our focus away from other things that could be more productive. This one we hear, people just can't get away from all the day-to-day and do enough prospecting. So I know we had one person mention, get a service person to help so they can have their time freed up. You may be a great salesperson, but if you don't ever have time to do it and you're stuck doing the servicing, not the highest and best use of your time. And then we hear this one, we had one client that their closing ratios were below 20%. And over the course of the last, well, since March, they started implementing the assessments that we use. They set the bar a little higher for who they bring in, who they select and hire as sales reps. And then everybody has to be trained consistently on the same process and system with us. And they've already doubled their closing ratios by 50% or increased by 50%. So that's a big thing, that they were wasting a lot of leads, and that's burning money. So these are just some of the things we hear. Again, one or two of these maybe resonated with you, write it down. So now we're going to play a game called Word Match. And here, I just want people to unmute themselves. And when you see this word, what immediately comes to mind for you? What are the adjectives that describe a salesperson? So just call out your thoughts.
Pushy.
Sleazy.
Pushy, sleazy. Okay.
I thought pushy too immediately.
Okay. All right. What else? Everybody
Time
just,
suck.
what's that?
Time suck.
Time suck. Ooh, ow. Okay. Anybody else got one?
I thought eager.
Eager. Okay.
That's
Used
nice.
car
Carrie, that's a good
salesperson.
one. Okay. What else? Just jump in.
Used car salesperson. That's what I first thought.
Oh, I got it. The used car salesperson. You know, I could set a timer for that, how long it takes. And it's usually not more than about 60 seconds before somebody says that one. What else? Stacy, what do you got?
I said eager.
You said eager. Okay. What else? We have any others?
Necessary.
Necessary. Oh, well, I like that answer. That's an interesting one. And who was it that said necessary?
That was me. Well, that was me.
Okay, great.
But did you mean that like necessary evil?
No. Some may though, but yeah, I decided just to take the other end of the approach, because we all know that necessary is an important word.
Okay. Necessary. Okay. All right. Well, so the reason I'm asking this question is, if this is what we're thinking, what happens when we're working with a prospect or a buyer? What happens with other people? Do you think other people may share some of these thoughts? And you can just raise your hand or give a thumbs up if you give us the raise the hand signal there. If you think this might be what prospects or buyers are thinking when we are in the salesperson role. I see Julie nodding her head. Yeah, I see a few nods here. Thank you, Nathan. So think about it. Let's pretend you were gonna, and I'm just gonna make one up here, you were gonna buy a red leather sofa, right? And some of you, that may be your taste, others may not. But let's pretend you went out and you were gonna buy a red leather sofa. You walk into the store where you know they sell red leather sofas, and the salesperson comes up to you and they say, "Can I help you?" What is the typical answer?
Just looking.
Just looking. Thank you. Perfect. And haven't all of us said that? We've all done it. So I will just say that we start from a position where, with most people in the general public, guard walls are way up. Right. And so when they sense a salesperson is in their vicinity, the intruder alert alarm, whoop, whoop, right? Run, hide your wallet, because there's a salesperson in the room. And what we believe is, if this is done right, if we are other-centered in our sales process and we respect the prospect or the buyer and ourselves, that we have an opportunity to make this into a discovery process and really be able to do a service where we are solving a problem. And if there's not a problem to solve, we can shake hands and very amicably part ways. So I want you to write some things down here for me, and maybe some of you even kind of shout out a couple things. What would you say if somebody asked you, why should your prospects do business with you? What would be the top 1 or 2 reasons you would give them? Why should your prospects do business with you? What is it about what you do? It's, better, smarter, faster, whatever it is. Anybody got one that you want to just share?
Best
Listen.
value proposition.
And that is,
Balance between good job done in a reasonable amount of time for a much more reasonable amount of money. So therefore, bigger value, better
Okay.
value.
bigger value, better value. Okay, so I want everybody just, write down some of these thoughts for yourself. There's a good reason why I'm asking this. What else? Anybody else got another one that you would just want to share?
Yeah,
Why
I'll
should they
go.
do business? Go ahead.
Yeah, we're the biggest business brokerage in Colorado. So we
Uh-huh.
have the most listings, which means we have the most buyer activity. So we'll get the most views on your business.
Okay. All right. And so those are your reasons. Thanks for sharing that. And anybody else? Just one more share.
Avoid expensive mistakes.
Say that again.
Avoid expensive mistakes.
Oh, okay. They don't want expensive mistakes. Okay. Well, so here's one of the parts about this exercise is to think about a story. It's a good news, bad news story that we see this happen a lot, that for some reason out of your control, the owner of your business or your business itself has to shut down today. And, that's the bad news. You're fired on a Friday afternoon. Your business gets shut down on a Friday afternoon. But good news is the following week, you get hired by somebody that's in your field, your competition. And most of the time, I'm going to say maybe 90% of the time, the story that you're going to tell about your value proposition and what makes you different or better or smarter, it's almost always exactly the same thing that we were saying at our prior firm. Some exceptions, I heard some exceptions here today, but if we're all saying the same thing as our competition, what does that force our prospects and buyers to do? What are they buying on at that point? Anybody got any ideas?
Price.
Price, yeah. And what I know from doing this for so many years is that price is far less important than we think. And an example of that with one of our clients was a company that is a website designer, and he got into a competitive bidding situation, and they had lined up 8 other firms, which seems like a big waste of time to me, but that's what this company decided, is they were going to look at 8 different website design companies. And this fellow named Alex was the owner of the business, and he did not compete on price. He definitely applied the methodology that we taught him, and his price was the highest one, and he got the business. And at the end, he asked the owner, he said, well, if we were the highest bid, why did you choose us? And the answer was, you were the only one who really understood our needs. So what I'm telling you here is that he went about this not as a classically trained salesperson where the person looks at you and goes, oh God, it's a trained assassin, hide your wallet. So one of the things that we teach our folks and our clients in training is you're in a dance. So the title of our topic here tonight is leading the buyer-seller dance. And there's some things that happen if the buyer is the one in control. And I'll just suggest a couple things, and I'd maybe suggest that you also chime in if you think you know some of the answers here, because you're all pretty sharp and I get a sense you know some of these answers. The first thing is I've learned that buyers almost never know how to buy what it is we sell. Dustin, you're a great example. How many people have sold a business before when they come to you? Probably not many. Is that right?
Most of the time it's their first. We have some people that are serial entrepreneurs and they flip businesses, but most of the time it's, yeah, you worked in it for 30 years and now it's time to sell.
Yeah. And so they don't know how to buy what you do.
Mm-mm.
And part of what you're doing and part of the service you're providing is helping them through that process. So if they don't know how to buy what we sell, we're starting with mutual mystification in the first place. They don't know what to ask. And if we don't know what to say to them, we're all confused. So what we find is that leads to us not really understanding what their needs are. And we may inadvertently end up presenting a solution to an undefined problem because we didn't understand their needs in the first place. And then when we go to close, then what happens? Anybody got any ideas about that? We didn't know the problem. We try to close. What do you think? Anybody? Dustin, you've got a guess.
Oh, you didn't relate enough for them to trust you.
Yes. Yeah. And so we didn't uncover the real needs and we don't get to solve the real problem. So here's what we know about the typical order. Okay. Here's our buyer. The typical buyer expresses a lot of interest. Hey, you guys are great. They're very motivated, but then guess what they do? Remember the red leather couch? We went in to buy the red leather couch, just looking. We told a little bit of a fib, and we did it for a reason because we wanted to protect ourselves against the hard sale. Who can blame us for that, right? So they're going to act motivated. They're not going to tell you their real reasons because they don't trust you. Then they obtain information, which otherwise known as stealing, you know, all of your knowledge, the years of training, education, and expertise that you have built. And then, you know, beyond even avoiding commitment, they disappear. And, or as I like to say, they go into the witness protection program, never to be heard from again. We'd like to put a stop to that, right? So this is what it looks like. We show up, and probably not everybody here, but a lot of the folks that I met, and you know, some of the sales techniques I might have tried 10 or 15 years ago, might have started with small talk. You know, they expressed interest. I do a little needs analysis. They're like, yay, I really like you, which now I'm scared. If anybody tells me that, I know there's bad news that's going to follow that. Then we present, and maybe we're presenting too soon because we haven't uncovered enough information. We haven't built enough trust. We haven't earned the right to ask some of the deeper questions that will reveal the true needs and the things that people are really worried about. Then based on our presentation, attempt to close, and they're going to disappear because they feel like we didn't listen. And of course, no, we're stuck chasing them. So, question, agree or disagree? Salespeople are trusted advisors. Who agrees, who disagrees?
Agree.
Agree.
Okay, I got some
Buyer
people.
agrees.
Awesome.
Sometimes.
I agree with
Sometimes.
that, but I agree with that, but the buyer probably doesn't.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Very fair answer.
I think salespeople are advisors, but they build the trust over time.
Very good. Good answer. So one of the things that we think is very important in the philosophy of Sandler is it's about discovery, not convincing. I was talking to someone who's fairly highly placed in a company. They want me to do some work. This is a person who reports directly to the CEO and works a lot with the executive team. And in the meeting, she actually said to me, yeah, we need to convince the CEO and the CFO. And I didn't say anything. I wrote that down, but I thought, I'm not going to try to convince anybody. I want to discover if there's enough of a problem for me to solve it. Is it worth it? And do I even have the solution? So we really think that it's our role to create an atmosphere of trust where the person feels safe to talk and safe to tell us what's really on their mind and to allow us to gather enough information to meet the needs that they have, or to see if we even can. Maybe we're not the right fit. So we judge the success of any meeting that we have with a potential buyer or someone who's currently a client. We judge it by the amount of information we're gathering, not the information we're dispensing. And then we apply, we call it the 70-30 rule, and that has to do with who talks the most. So I'm going to let you all guess who should be talking 70% and who should be talking 30. Any guesses? I hear some chuckling.
The client talks.
Yes.
You bait, they talk.
Yeah, right. The prospect or the client should be doing most of the talking. Good answer. So I also want to focus on what is it we really control. Sometimes we forget. And on the days when I forget, when I slip up and forget, I go back to this Sandler success triangle, which is based on controlling three main things: our own behaviors, our own attitudes, and our own techniques. So if we go in thinking that we're the pushy salesperson and we feel a little bit guilty asking them about money, that's going to show up and it's going to get in our way. But if we go in confident that we believe in our product and our service and they have pain and we may have a solution, we'll be more confident about how we go about the conversation. And technique, of course, is important. Most sales programs focus primarily on technique, and this is one system that I think is unique in really focusing on attitude, our own philosophy, our own beliefs, the why of what we're doing, and behaviors by having the right strategy, plans, and goals so that we have the right activities. And it's connecting the three of them together. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned since working with this system is all three are important. Having the right behaviors and enough of the right quality behaviors, having the right attitude, and having the right skills and technique is really important. But even above that is this one saying, and this is a psychologist, and I don't remember the psychologist, but if you want me to find it, I will, if that's important to you. Here it is. It's not how you feel that determines how you act. It is how you act that determines how you feel. I love that saying because what it's telling me is if my attitude isn't the best, I'm not going to wait for my attitude to change my behaviors. If I'm having a bad attitude day or I'm letting head trash get in my way or negative thinking get in my way, I want to change my behaviors because by changing my behaviors, I'm going to change my attitude. So there's just one takeaway I think is really important. So 3 elements of communication. Let's talk about this for a minute. We have words, we have body language, and we have tonality. And there's this little pie over to the left. I'm curious who can match up the correct concept in the correct sliver of the pie. In other words, which of these 3 elements has the most impact on how our communication is perceived? Is it our words? Is it our body language? Or is it our tone? Anybody want to guess?
I think body language is the biggest, tone is the next biggest, and words is the smallest.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner right off the bat. Terry, tell me why you say that.
I think because just based on my own personal experience, it's so easy to forget the words or to even misinterpret the words, but the body language and the tone both leave you with a feeling, where the words to me just disappear. And you remember the feeling where you wouldn't remember the words.
Very good. That's very well said. And it's really true. People will remember how they felt when they were with you. They will remember how you treated them and how you made them feel. they will probably remember about 80% of what they said, but about 20% of what you said. So all of these are concepts that underlie the philosophy, and I'm going to do a little bit of skills training now, but without this context, the skill that I'm going to train you on, a couple of things tonight, I don't think would make nearly as much sense in terms of why the heck we do them the way we do them. So, Terry, I thank you so much for that, because it's very true. Another thing I'll just comment on before we leave this 3 elements of communication, as all of you know, as you have a conversation with a prospect, there are going to be inflection points where you need to ask some possibly challenging, difficult, or personal questions. And we all get to that point in the conversation. And it's the body language, it's the tonality, and yes, the words are part of it too, but we can deliver the same message in the same words with completely different body language and tonality and have a 100% different response from the person hearing those words and experiencing that communication. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to set the stage with that tonight. So here's our answers. Thank you very much. Got it right first time out of the gate. So
Can you go back to this 1 second? I didn't catch the percentages.
oh, there we go. There's our percentages. So I'll give you a second to write that down. Thanks for jumping in there, Michelle. And anytime anybody wants to jump in with a question, please do so. You don't have to wait. So one of the things we are going to work on tonight is our 30-second commercial. And first thing I'll say about 30-second commercial is I'm not real literal about it. 30 seconds just means short in my way of thinking, 30 seconds to maybe a minute. And what we believe and what has been demonstrated with our system is using this 4-step process. And so some of you probably already have a really good 30-second commercial already. And if so, that's wonderful. If this helps you tweak it, great. If you find yourself struggling with it at all, or you just want to make your 30-second commercial better, here's our opportunity. So we have 4 main elements. And what I'm going to do, Simon agreed kindly and graciously to do a really quick role play with me. And I'm not going to make Simon provide his 30-second commercial, but I am going to conversationally tell my 30-second, and it may be more than 30-second commercial to Simon, and see if you recognize the elements that I've introduced here. So introduction, a benefit statement, 3 pain statements, and a hook question. So Simon, are you ready to just role play this with me?
Yes.
So, good. So we're setting the context here. Simon and I just met, and you're going to ask me what I do, who I am, and what I do.
Kathleen, it's nice to meet you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Hey, thank you so much, Simon. Well, I'm Kathleen, and I'm with Sandler Training, and we do sales and sales leadership training and coaching. So
That's awesome.
Typically work with 2 types of clients, Simon. And, you know, the first, they're the people I call lifelong learners. Status quo just isn't in their vocabulary, already successful. They want to take it to the next level. They're just not sure how. So then the second kind, not quite as fortunate. And when they first start with us, they tell us that they're really frustrated because they're chasing prospects and getting ghosted. Others tell us that they're really concerned that their people discount in order to close business. And sometimes the sales leader will tell us that they are a little anxious because they don't have a good system for holding their sales team accountable, and there's no system in place. So I'm just curious, if you were to choose, Simon, which of those 2 categories would you say you're in?
I could see myself a little bit in both.
That's a really interesting answer.
But maybe
So
more in the first.
At that point, I could say to Simon, tell me more. You know, one of my favorite Sandler questions is tell me more. Most people would like to talk about things, and it's good to listen. So hopefully you can recognize that there's a format here, and we're going to do a short breakout here today and give people a chance to use that content. And what you're going to do is write your own introduction in the breakout, and you notice it's your name and your company and what you do. And I didn't have any jargon or anything. Sales and sales leadership training and coaching, the simplest words I could find to describe that. And we like having a gain statement when we introduce ourselves, because what we have found is if you start with a gain statement, you are protecting the other person's okayness. So if we start with the pain, people can feel stupid. And the example that I give of that is, before I learned Sandler, I'd go to a networking meeting and say, I'm an executive coach. And before I could get very far, oh, I'm fine, I don't need a coach. And using a gain statement acknowledges that a lot of people are really smart and they have a lot of it under control.
Kathleen,
And
can you remind
yes.
us what was your gain statement in your introduction? I
What
think
was
I
my
might have
gain
missed it.
statement? Thank you. Perfect question. So the gain statement was, typically we work with two types of clients. The first is very successful. They're lifelong learners. Status quo is not in their vocabulary. They want to take their business to the next level. They're just not sure how. So they're looking for a gain, right? So a gain statement is acknowledging the person's success. And for them, it's not about pain for them, it's about gain. So does that answer the question, Carol?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, awesome question. Jump in anytime you have a question. So you have a gain statement, right? And what we always train people on is to not let a pain sneak into the gain statement. Easy to mix those two up. Then the next thing you notice, there were 3 pain words. And so one of the things that we'll have you do is look at there's a template that Simon's going to send you in chat. And we use an acronym to help you find 3 different emotion words. It's a very silly acronym. You don't have to memorize it or write it down because it'll be in the template, but the word is FUDWACA. Great acronym, right? I don't know who thought of that, but I'll tell you what FUDWACA is: frustrated, upset, disappointed, worried, anxious, concerned, or angry. Now, that's not an exhaustive list, but FUDWACA is kind of easy once you've heard it. It's so silly, you kind of don't forget it. We'll send that to you in the template in chat so you can open it up and look at it. But just find 3 things. Remember earlier we talked about what makes you different and what your value proposition is. Now I want you to think about 3 problems that you solve for your customers. And in our instance, people were frustrated by chasing prospects, getting ghosted. That's a pain. Another pain in our world is concerned that people are discounting to win business. And that's, anybody who's a business owner knows, hey, we're cutting profit margins by doing that. And then another in our world is a little bit anxious that the sales leader doesn't have a system and can't hold people accountable. So if we're not holding our salespeople accountable and we can't forecast and deals aren't closing, there you go, there goes the business. So those are just 3 easy examples of pain statements that we might solve in our world. And there's an endless array that you can apply to your world. And there's other emotion words that we've heard people use in their world that could work, but we want to get you started with the FUDWACA. It's a funny acronym, but it works. And then finally, you notice that hook question. You want people to feel like they're in control and you're still guiding them. The whole idea of the Sandler system is you're guiding people through a process you're guiding them to answer a question. So the hook question was, and again, it'll be in the template. So Simon, if you were to choose, which of those two sounds like you? And Simon, you notice he said, oh, you know, a little bit of both. And that's a perfectly fair answer. And we don't care if they recognize themselves in the gain statement or the pain statement. We just want them to think about what we're doing and use that as a way to just generate a good conversation. So it looks like we have some more stuff in the chat. I don't know if we should take a moment and look at that. And then we want to get into our breakout and let people write and practice. And this will just be rough. I understand we're going through this fast, so we don't expect to be perfect here, but this is a good chance to take some different tools and a different look at your 30-second commercial, practice it and refine it together in a breakout. So Simon, do we have some more chat that we should acknowledge?
Just Nathan had to leave. He's running another meeting, and
Okay.
yeah, that's all there is right now.
Oh.
And I have the rooms open
Okay,
to assign. How much time do you want to give people? It's
let's-
4:30 right now.
let's just do 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, so you'll get a notice that breakout rooms are open. You're assigned, so you have to click on join the breakout room, and then you'll get, I think, a minute warning before the 10 minutes are over, and then we'll all come back into.
And we're just trying to practice this very conversationally with each other. Whatever you've drafted out, don't worry about it being perfect. This is just kind of generating some new ideas for you today.
Great. Okay, so the rooms are open now.
Great, got it. Okay, so now we're back together. How did that go?
10 minutes wasn't long enough.
Yeah, that's what people always say. We're just getting you started here tonight. This is just a little taste of this. And so I'll just share a little bit of what we worked on in our group and just some really good questions and comments that came up. Because I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job of explaining the why. There's a really smart methodology. Somebody else other than me created it, okay? Not my methodology. The reason we do this the way we do it, with our introduction, just our name, company, and the simplest form of what we do, we are keeping the guard walls down by not saying a lot of jargon, because jargon will make that person go defensive and feel dumb. That, you know, I don't know, I understand what Julie does because she's really smart. She's in commercial lines insurance, and I don't know a thimbleful of what Julie knows, right? So Julie would explain it really simply. The gain statement keeps them okay and safe, right? The gain statement is there. They can raise their hand and go, yeah, I'm smart. I'm already good at this, okay? So, and the gain statement has no problem in it whatsoever. The 3 pain statements track exactly to the emotional issue or the emotional pain that people are struggling with. Like in Dustin's world, you know, it could be we are helping business owners who are very frustrated that they listed with another broker and they never got any nibbles. Sometimes we're working with business owners who are really concerned that they're leaving money on the table and they don't know why or what to do about it, right? So those are a couple of pain statements that Dustin could use, but if he used a good gain statement up front, he's kept them feeling smart and safe with him. Now, the reason we ask them to make a choice, the reason we say to them at the end, if you were to choose, which of those 2 categories do you find yourself in or do you see yourself in? It's their decision. And one of the best rules in Sandler is people do not argue with their own data. So it's not me telling somebody you have this problem, this problem, this problem, which makes the walls go up. And so we're giving them a choice. They get to guide the conversation, but there's a little psychology, tonality, and body language in saying to them, hey, just curious, Dustin, which of those two categories, if you were to choose, which of those two categories do you see yourself in? So if I say that in the right way to Dustin, Dustin gets to pick. What are you going to say, Dustin?
I want to sell my business and drink margaritas. Let's get this going.
Right? There you go, right? And so that's a gain statement, right? There's a gain statement, and then there's plenty of pain statements to go around. Now, I know this was real short. This is something that takes time. And the idea here is to kickstart some ideas and give you some new things to do. So your 30-second commercial will do several things. It will differentiate you from everybody else because you're not giving a long list of features and benefits to people. You're engaging them. So we gave them the choice between a gain statement and the pain statements. And we said, if you were to choose, which of those two categories do you see yourself in? People do not argue with their own data. So they may tell you it's the gain statement. Great, tell me more. There might not be a problem to solve, or they are so determined to have that gain that they want that they are going to work with you. It just depends on the person. The pain statements, if they choose that, it wasn't us telling them. We are beginning to drop guard walls by getting them to talk about their pain because we didn't tell them. Terry, you look like you have something you want to say.
No. Actually, what I was thinking is I'm going to need to listen to this recording 2 or 3 times.
Yes, and I appreciate that. I'm going to repeat that I am going very fast. Now I have one more thing I want to demo. We won't do a breakout, but one of my offers here today is after this that you can reach out to me and we'll talk about what I'm going to show you here in a second, which is an upfront contract. And I'm going to reshare my screen here in just a second. Let me do full screen. So Simon has again graciously agreed with me that he will demo what we call an upfront contract. And scoot back to that part of it. And the reason I'm showing you the upfront contract is the upfront contract is one of the most powerful things in the entire Sandler system. And if it is done correctly, we have data from Gong AI, which is an artificial intelligence software platform that a lot of companies are using with their sales teams. And it'll record phrases, it'll record tonality, it'll measure who's talking the most, the prospect or the salesperson. One of the things that it captured is that if you use a very solid upfront contract with your prospect and with your client every single time you talk to them, closing ratios increase by 60%. So I like that. I'm a big fan of that number. So what I'm going to do is, and you'll see the upfront contract in the slides from this today. We're going to do this together, Simon and I. And before we do this, I'm going to just tell you what a definition is of an upfront contract. Very simply, it's the agreement between the salesperson and a prospect or a client about what's going to take place in this interaction. It could be a meeting, it could be a very quick call, but having a solid upfront contract helps us have a mutually agreeable agenda so we know what's going to happen. We are establishing equal business stature as salespeople, which is really important. It's one of the things that will help diminish this getting ghosted and being, chasing people. We get the guard walls down, and at the end of the meeting, we know what's going to happen and we know what will happen next. And what may happen next is we may never pursue this. We may decide that there's no fit. So that is a very high level brief explanation of what an upfront contract is and why we would use it. Here's the content. And again, you'll get this content and a little bit of a talk track that will go with it to help you start using it. And one of the things that we do in our training is teach our clients how to use this so there's less of that chasing. Okay, Simon, are you ready?
I'm ready, yes.
All right, so what Simon and I are going to do, we're going to pretend here, Simon and I met at a networking meeting. We talked briefly about some problems he's struggling with, and we agreed we would just set up a discovery call together, just that simple. And we're starting off a discovery call. So, all right, so here we are. Simon and I, we were just now kicking off our call, and I say, hey, Simon, thanks so much for inviting me to the Zoom call today.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to talking.
Great. Well, appreciate it. And, you know, when we talked at that networking event, we agreed we would spend about 60 minutes here today just to talk about what's going on in your world. And I want to double check that the 60 minutes still works for you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great. So when we talked, you had mentioned to me that you had a problem with issue A, and then there was another issue, problem B, and I wanted to double check with you and see is that what you want to talk about today, or are there other things on your agenda besides A and B?
I think A and B is good, and A really is right now the part that hurts the most. So let's.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so A is the thing that is your top priority. Okay, I'm going to take a note of that and make sure that we spend enough time on that. And can we agree we'll spend a little more time on A than B since that's your priority?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Appreciate that. Now, my guess is you will have a lot of questions for me today, and I'm going to have a lot of questions for you as well. You going to be okay if I ask a lot of questions?
Sure, yeah.
I appreciate that. The reason I ask is I'm really curious about what's going on and what's really happening in your world. And I want to make sure that I get a full understanding of that by the end of our meeting today. So anything else that, in order to make this a good spend of your time, that you want me to cover? Let's pretend we're coming to the end of our call. We've got a few minutes before we wrap. Anything else that you want to cover besides A and B?
No, not for today. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So one of the things that I want to make clear is I understand I might not be a good resource for you. And if we get to the end of our call today and it just occurs to me that we're not going to be a good fit and we can't help, are you going to be okay if I say no?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for that. And likewise, same for you. If by the end of this call you say not a fit, not a good resource, will you be okay to tell me no?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I appreciate you being straightforward. Now, I like yes. And today, a yes does not mean we're going to work together. We've got a long ways to go before we would make that determination. Yes might mean that at the end of our call today, we take out our calendars and we set up a meeting. There may be some other stakeholders you want to bring in. We decide what our next meeting is, what we're going to cover, who's going to be there. Does that sound fair?
Sounds great, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, my biggest fear is we get to the end of the meeting and it seems like we had a good meeting and you tell me you want to think it over. And what I usually find when people say think it over, I'm the only one thinking it over. So can we agree if it doesn't feel like a solid yes, that really means it's a no, and you maybe don't want to hurt my feelings?
Okay, yes, we can agree.
You can tell me no. All right, fair enough. Okay, I appreciate
Back door
that.
closed.
All right, so what do you guys see there? Let's just take a second for a little bit of feedback. What do you think was going on?
Kathleen, really quick, just in terms of upfront contract, it is 53
Yep.
in terms of timing. Okay.
So we'll take 2 minutes to get people that, and then we're going to do our survey at the end. What'd you guys notice with the upfront contract?
You're stating everything that's going to happen and getting their permission that that is okay, and giving them the opportunity to agree that they want to move forward with you at the end.
Mhm.
Or not.
You're tearing down a wall too. So any hesitancy they had coming in, you're giving them the power to kill it, if they're not feeling it. So
Yep.
putting the ball in their court.
Yeah, good. Very good. And did anybody feel uncomfortable that, was I delivering that in a way that you're like, oh shit, this lady's, she's a trained assassin? Did anybody feel like that?
Here's what I thought. When you let it be known that maybe you'll be the one to say, let's don't work together, all of a sudden people want to make you want to work with them. If that made sense.
Yeah. Thank you for picking up on that. That is a great insight. And it is exactly why we say that we might tell them no first. And giving them permission to say no keeps them safe. Like Dustin said, guard walls come down. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like you're giving permission to be truthful, and then both sides can relax, right? So it's like, okay,
Yes.
and you're setting the example first. You're like, I'm going to do it first. I'm going to let you know. I'm going to be honest with you, and if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You can do the same thing. Please tell me.
Mhm.
Even as a third party, I felt like, oh gosh, that's such a much more easy conversation to have.
It's a huge relief because
Yeah.
most salespeople will not do something against their own self-interest. So that's called a pattern interrupt. And most people will respond favorably to that if you're authentic. So notice my body language and my tonality with those words. I could say those words in a different tone and with different body language would have the opposite effect.
I liked how
Right.
you gave them the space to also, like, maybe at the end of the call, they're interested or they really like what you have to offer, but that they might not be the ultimate decision maker, and that maybe they won't be able to present the information the way you can. So you're willing to have this discussion again with other people in the company.
Oh, I'm over here applauding. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, it is. Getting all the stakeholders involved is one of the most important concepts of what we do. And it goes a long way towards making your sales cycle more efficient. One of the things about Sandler is, write this one down, return on sales effort, ROSE, like the flower, ROSE, return on sales effort. We want you to be able to improve the return on your sales effort. Okay, so here's, we're going to ask a couple questions here. First question is, if anyone has a group or a professional association that books speakers that do free talks, I can do a similar talk to this. I can shorten it way down. There's less teaching, but I can do 30 minutes or a 2-hour class or whatever people would like. Do a lot of free talks. So if you know someone, please share that with me either in chat or send it to Sharon or Simon. The second thing is, what I'm offering today is a 30-minute complimentary consultation. You can work on your 30-second commercial with me. I know we went over that really fast, and I certainly apologize for zipping along, but just want to get the ball rolling for you. Think about some ways that you can make that 30-second commercial more powerful and impactful. So those are two things that I'm offering. Now, what I want to ask from you all is, let's get a takeaway, just one takeaway from everybody before we wrap up. What's one thing you learned, one thing you can use? So let's go around and hear a little something from everybody in the room. And who wants to start?
I'll go.
All right, Terry, go for it. And then Michelle will come to you next.
The gains statement is kind of new to me. I know in crafting your commercial kind of things, always talking about pain statement, the gains thing was new to me.
Great. That's a great one. Love that. Okay, Michelle, did you have one?
Similar to that, only that it needs to go before the pain.
Very good. Okay.
And then
And
similar to that, make them choose between the two.
yes, good, excellent point there. Yeah, asking them to make the choice and making sure that that question, it's not a yes, no. Notice that it is, here's these two choices. It's binary. Great observations. Okay. So who's next? Chris.
Yeah, I mean, that conversational contract that we just went through was huge. I'm always like to think that I have those kinds of relationships, but this really focuses a laser and just cuts right through all the stuff that might be leading up to that eventually. So I appreciate that.
Yes, it's a great way to frame up every meeting you have. And you could do a super short upfront contract. It could be as short as you dropped in on someone. Dean could be the guy to do that. And someone comes out, you know, the CEO of the company or the owner comes out and you say, hi, I'm Dean with Cirrus Line, and thanks for coming out into the lobby. And does it make any sense for me to take 30 seconds, tell you what I do, and then you can decide if it makes sense for us to talk further or not? And they go, oh, 30 seconds, okay. And then you do your 30-second commercial, and then you ask them, hey, which one do you fall into, gain or pain? People start the ball rolling with that every day, and it's very effective. So, all right, who's next? A couple more shares, then we'll wrap up.
I like the gain statement. I learned a ton. Appreciate that in our breakout. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. All right. Very good. I really appreciate everyone's time tonight. Thank you so much for being such great participants. And I guess we're going to put the recording up so you can go back over a lot of the information that I went over really quickly. Anyone that wants to set up that 30-minute consultation to work on your 30-second commercial, I'm happy to help. And thanks again for being here tonight.